Hello, so today we are going to create a radial design printing plate. It's going to be a Collagraph plate where we create these raised areas. So this is the base of our plate, and then we're going to glue on pieces onto this cardboard piece that stick up, and then we will print it on some colored paper. So a radial design is a design that has a center and it has things that go off of it. So think of things like a wagon wheel or a bicycle wheel, how it has the circle in the middle and then these spokes that go around. That's what we're thinking when we're doing a radial design. And what we're going to do first is find the center, and then we're going to create a T and then an X that we can follow with our shapes to create a radial design, a pattern that is in a circle shape. So I'm going to give you a 2-inch ruler, and what this means is that the ruler is 2 inches wide. Your cardboard should be very close to a 4-inch square. So you're going to take your tagboard ruler and you're going to line it up with the edge of the cardboard. So one side of the ruler is right along the edge of the cardboard. You'll use a pencil. I'm using a black marker so you can see on the screen what I'm doing. This should be in the center. If I miscut your square and you have a little bit of extra, what you would do is take this ruler, slide it to that line there, and if you have cardboard sticking out, you draw another line and trim that part off. And I can easily help you with that if you need help. So this is a vertical line. Now we're going to turn it and we're going to do it one more time. And these two lines, when they cross over each other, that's the center of our square. So I've taken my ruler, lined it up with the edge of my square, and found the center. And this should look like 4 equal squares or something very close. So this is the T. Now we're going to do the X. So you're going to take your ruler. You're going to find the center. So the way that you do that is you take your pencil and you touch the center point. You put your ruler against your pencil point, and then you tilt it and rotate it until it's lined up with the 2 corners of your square, as close as you can do it. And you want to make sure that this line goes through the center. So in order to make sure that line goes through the center, you have to start with your pencil on that center. Put the ruler against your pencil point, rotate it to where you can get it to touch the corners or become very close to the corners, and then draw your line. So this line here isn't quite on the corners. It's a little bit off, but that's okay. As long as it meets the center, that's what's most important, because with a radial design, we want to find the center, and then we're going to use these lines to place our geometric shapes. So I have cut out a bunch of foam, craft foam pieces into geometric shapes. So triangles, we have trapezoid shapes, we have squares, different size squares, we have long skinny rectangles, we have some diamond shapes, some circle shapes, and a hexagon shape. And I think I'm going to start with a hexagon. So I just twist the ice cream container lid off, grab a hexagon. These are pretty big, so I'm just going to use the hexagon as the center of my design, just one, and twist the cap back on. Now, I want to make sure that I glue this hexagon right in the center, that I don't have it kind of crooked or off to one side. So if I use these corners, or some of the corners, to help me to line up onto these lines. So I know if I had it over here, you could tell clearly that it's not in the center if I had it up too high. So I'm going to use these 2 points here to line up with that horizontal line in the center, and then I'm going to try to find the center of the hexagon by pushing it to one side or the other. And that's probably as good as it's going to get. So I'm going to put a circle of glue. Now you don't want to use too much glue, because if the glue squirts out the sides of these shapes, that will leave a raised area. So you want to make sure that you use enough glue, but not so much that it's squeezing out the sides of the shape. So I flipped it over, made sure it's right in the center, glued that down. Now I need to decide what I'm going to have coming off of that center part. And I think I'll use these diamond shapes. So their lid just pops off. And before I glue them down, you want to start with 4. And since I cut these by hand, some of them might not look exactly the same. So you want to find 4 that are similar. And I need to decide, am I going to put these shapes on the X lines like I'm doing right now? Or do I want to put them on the T? Or do I want to do both? It's completely up to me. So I think what I'm going to do is use the corners of the diamond to line up with the straight line, the X line, that diagonal. And I want to make sure that I don't have some really close to the white hexagon and some far away. I want that space to be fairly equal all the way around. So all 4 of my diamonds should be spaced away from my hexagon about equal. And I like that. And I think maybe I'll go with some of these long skinny rectangles. And I cut these by hand as well. So some are a little bit thick and some are thin. So try to stick with one or the other. I think I'm going to go with thin. And maybe I line those up on this, the T line, but then they stick off. So I could trim them, or I think I'll flip it. I will put these on the X line because they fit. And then I'll put the diamonds on the T line. So that means the diamonds are going to be considerably closer to the white hexagon. And I would recommend laying the pieces out and looking at them, checking the space. Like if I had this one way off here, that wouldn't look right. So look at the spacing. And then once you kind of have the spacing, then you're going to glue these down. And again, you don't want to be a glue monster. So I'm going to lift up this and I'm going to put a thin line of glue, not a super thick line. And then I'm going to squish this down into the glue, making sure the glue, it is sticking out the sides, but it's not coming up across to the top. And if I was worried about that, which you should be worried about that, I think what you can do is get a paper towel and just kind of wipe that glue away. And that will make sure that that raised glue doesn't print the next class once this glue is dry. Okay, so now that I have these green pieces glued down, I want to check and make sure I have equal spacing. So this one's pretty close, but this one's a little bit further. So I think I'm going to just scooch these a little bit closer to the white hexagon. And now I'm going to glue my diamonds down. So I'll just lift up my diamonds and put a line of glue, and then I'll use the T line to put the opposite corners touching the black T line. And now, before I say I'm finished, look, my brown diamonds are almost touching the white, but this one down here isn't. So I need to scoop this one up. And actually, if you look, this one on the bottom is pretty small compared to these other 3. So it's not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. So I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to clean up the extra glue. So I'll hold down my green piece so it doesn't move, and I'll wipe up this extra glue along the sides. And then I forgot to mention the very first thing we need to do is write our name on this side. So this is a box that had some packing tape on it, so I'm going to use a Sharpie, but a pencil might work perfectly fine for you, but I can't write with pencil on here. So you're going to write your name and the day you have art. Day A, day B, day C. Flip it over and create your radial design. So there is my radial design Collagraph printing plate. I'm going to let this dry, and next class I'll show you how to ink up this plate and print it onto colored paper. Hello, so now that we have our radial design Collagraph printing plate ready to go, we created it last class, let the glue dry, now we're ready to print. So you are going to have one color at your table, and we're going to need to roll it out with the brayer on the tray. So we'll put a little ink in the middle of the tray, and we need to make sure there's an even coverage on the sprayer. So we're going to roll side to side, and you can see it's not even at all. Then you're going to turn the tray and roll back and forth. You also want to pick your brayer up and then set it back down and roll, and that'll make sure that you have an even coverage. Now, too much ink is a bad thing, but you want to make sure you have a nice even coverage on your brayer. Then you are going to print it. So you're going to have some colored paper to print on, and this printing plate will fit nicely on your paper if you start in the corners and then work your way in the middle. So you're going to take your brayer, you're going to roll it across your Collagraph printing plate, and you can see there's not enough ink on the center, so I'm going to go and roll on the other side, and then back and forth, and you want to do this until you get an even coverage on all of your geometric shaped foam pieces. Now, I have gotten a little ink on the cardboard, the base plate, and that's okay. Printing is not an exact art. It has some edges and some little mess ups along the way, and that's what makes it so beautiful, because humans have created it so it's not perfect and not a machine. So you're going to take your printing plate and you're going to line up the corner with the corner of your paper. You're going to press it down. Firm pressure. Now the ink is sticky, so it won't want to let the paper move on you, which is good, but you need to put firm pressure on the back of your printing plate. Press down. You want to rub, make sure you get pressure in the middle and along the sides. And then, like I said, the ink is sticky, so you're going to have to hold your paper down as you pull your printing plate up, and so you get this really pretty print. And you're going to do that on your paper 6 times. So then after you print it once, you'll roll some more ink across, same color. And then you'll line up with the next corner, the corner of the printing plate with the corner of your paper. Press down firmly, make sure you press in the middle. I can see here I didn't press enough in the middle, so it didn't print as nice. So I need to make sure I apply pressure on the second one. So when you're printing, you want to look for some mistakes or some imperfections and see if you can fix those along the way. So then you're going to hold the paper down and pull up, and you can see this is a much cleaner print. Still not perfect in the center, but that's okay. Then I'm going to turn my paper and do the next 2 corners. Now you'll be sharing this ink with the people at your table, so you might have to put some more ink after 3 or 4 people have used it. So this would be my 3rd print, so we're talking about people at the table. Maybe after the 3rd person uses it, we put a little bit more ink. So again, we're going to line up the corner of our printing plate with the corner of our paper and press down. Hold the paper down, pull up. So now that I put more ink in the tray, I have to re-ink my brayer up. So I have to lift it and roll it the other direction to make sure I get a nice even coverage on my brayer. Now these last two prints, you're going to just have to use your best judgment to find the middle. Line up the bottom part of your printing plate with the bottom edge of your paper and press down. That was a very clean print. I had plenty of ink on my printing plate. But again, these imperfections are what makes printmaking beautiful. It's an inexact art. All right, and then my final print will go down here in the middle, lining up the bottom of my printing plate with the bottom of my paper. All right, and so now I'm finished. So this will go on the drying rack to dry. You and your shoulder partner will need to work together to clean out the tray and the brayer. You'll use just running water and a sponge to clean off the tray and put it in the strainer to dry. You'll use a sponge and running water to clean off your brayer. Make sure you get the edges on the side of the brayer here. And then the popsicle stick that you used for ink, that'll be wiped up with a sponge and just running water. So we're finished with our printing plate. We're not going to use it again, so you're going to pitch this in the trash. It can't go in the blue recycle bin because it's got these foam pieces on it. Good job.